Day 1233 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 1,030,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 920 in the past day. Then as for hardware, 11 tanks, 3 APVs, 38 artillery, 3 rocket launchers, and noting another milestone recently of 11,000 Russian tanks being destroyed since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Every day, the Russian scrap metal army becomes larger and larger. Now, conventional wisdom has always had it over the past decade that Russia has about 10 to 15,000 tanks within their stockpiles, which aligns with this milestone figure, as Russia doesn't deploy not nearly as many tanks as they used to in this war. And the ones they do are generally becoming older, lacking upgrades, scraping the bottom of the barrel type of situation, with most of what's left in storage sent for basic mechanical checks needed for reactivation, more or less. Then headed to the map, and where a large explosion has occurred at an electrical distribution station in Novgorod, and not to be confused with Russia's similarly named Nizhny Novgorod region. Nonetheless, the region could also be called Not So Good Novgorod, and with multiple different reasons provided for this latest occurrence, everything from sabotage to Ukrainian drones to a lightning strike. I suspect that excuse came from Russia. Now, the area is well within the proximity of vulnerability to all of these options, but given there's a war, it's likely to be resulting from option 1 or 2. Then on the map in Russia, thousands of miles away to Buryatia, the federal subject of Russia, located in Siberia, as another substation went up in flames under mysterious circumstances, leaving nothing but wreckage and triggering long delays on a section of track used to move cargo connected to Putin's army. Ukrainian partisans are suspected to be behind this latest disruption, adding yet another headache to Russian logistics. Then also on the map, further UAVs were detected in Voronezh, Belgorod, Kaluga, and just hours ago, Moscow, where one interception was caught on camera. Now to the main map, and where Ukrainian forces continue to make headway in the Sumy direction, pushing through Russian defenses with a string of counterattacks in the north and entering Novomykhailivka, while also moving into Alexivka from the northeast. Even some Russian propaganda outlets now have stopped pretending, openly admitting Ukraine's former advances. Ukraine's 79th Air Assault Brigade has seized control of at least 3 square kilometers north of Kindrivka, with their fighters now positioned just a few hundred meters south of Konstantinivka in the north, alarmingly close to the Russian border. It's also been reported that the Russian side looks short on reserves and unprepared, with defensive lines giving way due to a lack of fortifications or strongholds. Next, and in heading across to Kharkiv, where Russian forces pushed to an offshoot in this long-time stagnating pocket in the region's southeast, moving to, well, not exactly a settlement-rich area, and one that technically belongs to Lazova in the northeast. Now, this activity is part of the Russian army's latest attempts to find a new direction to reach up to the Oskol River, and just before it, the main north-south highway that leads to the biggest town in the region known as Borova. Also for Kharkiv, Ukrainian brigades keep pushing the envelope in this wider sector, with stories and updates on their rolling out of another all-robot assault unit just days ago that left Russian troops rattled and 2 surrendered without firing a shot. This isn't a one-off, it's now a faster moving trend, slowly turning the battle space into the futuristic ground robot wars as defined in science fiction novels of times gone by. Now, just like this latest event, and going back in time, because back in December, a Ukrainian brigade conducted the first all-robot combined arms assault using unmanned ground and aerial vehicles to attack Russian positions successfully, which was, again, in the Kharkiv Oblast. So all of this news suggests a taste of things to come, as we're already living in the age of futuristic robot wars. It's just that most of them happen to fly. Then next, down the map west of Toretsk, as Russia's 68th Tank Regiment was given given the task to cut through Kateryniivka and reach the reservoir, thereby seriously threatening Ukrainian positions on both sides and taking some ground in this direction most recently. Then moving much further south, as it was still a big day for Russian forces, this time expanding an additional 3 square kilometers southwest from their former Dachne settlement aspirations above the river. So in other words, admittedly a big day for Russia, 2 days in a row in fact. However, as for a better contextual representation, the Russian army hasn't actually moved the needle one bit over the past 2 days, still sitting on 18.87% of captured Ukrainian land, just unchanged, not registering at that decimal level, so they'll have to work a lot harder than that. Now to take a look all around the map, as the Ukrainian SOS destroyed one of the rare Russian Zemlyadyly mine lane systems. Then on the map, possibly the clearest footage of a Ukrainian Air Force MiG-29 Fulcrum launching a salvo of GBU-39 precision munitions. Now that's what you call a quartet of GBU-39s. Then moving along for examples as for what actually gets hit, with this example, an undisclosed location of a Russian position getting struck by more of the aviation-launched munitions, this time from 2 French precision hammers. Ukrainian aviation has come a long way now. Also on the map, and something I previously meant to squeeze into the hardware updates section, but we see here a new Ukrainian fixed-wing, X-wing type kamikaze drone with an automated target locking capability, also running some type of AI-assisted object detection. Soon to become a mainstay in this war, we'll probably start seeing a lot more of these innovations quite soon, spread across the entire map. Then on the map, and well, into the capital, but not the conventional form of warfare, as Ukrainian security officials have detained a Chinese father and son duo in Kyiv, accusing them of attempting to acquire and smuggle classified documents on the homegrown RK-360MC Neptune missile system to send off to Chinese intelligence. It sounds like something out of a dramatic espionage film plot, but the backstory goes as so. The younger suspect, a 24-year-old former student expelled from a Kyiv technical university in 2023, stayed in Ukraine, who then allegedly sought out a Ukrainian citizen that had access to advanced defense technology. Authorities say the suspect's father, a Chinese national residing in China, who regularly travels to Ukraine to help direct his son's own espionage activities. SBU counterintelligence officers apprehended the son first, as he tried to receive secret Neptune missile production documentation shortly after his father was taken into custody, followed by the search of their belongings, which uncovered mobile phones with messages and evidence of coordinated espionage activities designed to send those details back to the Chinese security services. So why would China do something like this? Well, China is well known for seeking out, acquiring, and reverse engineering foreign military technology, often through cyber espionage, industrial spying, or by purchasing components and documents on the black markets. This pattern is widely documented. China has done this with the US, Israel, European nations, and even the Russian defense sector too. Now, as for this father-son duo, well, this is a pretty big law to break in any country. So these two are looking to face up to 15 years in prison. Then throughout the map, overnight, Russia performed one of its biggest aerial blitzes of the war, firing a staggering 741 drones and missiles in a single night, comprising of 98.5% drones, and being an attack that was 1/3 larger than the previous record, which could be felt throughout the country, affecting at least 11 Ukrainian regions. Ukraine neutralized a staggeringly high proportion of the drones. I'll put the figures up on the screen in the video post-edit to get further clarity on the numbers first, but you'll see a combination of different drone types, a large volume of which are the Jaberas that lacked a warhead, instead used as an attempt to inundate Ukrainian air defenses. The remainder were mostly classed as the traditional Shahed attack drone variants. Now, of this event, the Kyiv capital, as usual, taking the brunt of the attacks, where residents spent over 10 hours under air raid alarms, taking shelter in metro stations while wave after wave of missiles and Shahed drones hammered the city, but also where strikes raged across more of the capital's residential district neighborhoods than not. The city of Lutsk in the Polish-bordered Ukrainian region of Volyn also came under heavy fire, unusually heavy fire, of Russian aggression for a city that's barely 50 miles from NATO territory. So as the smoke settles over Kyiv and western Ukraine, one thing is clear: Putin's record-breaking onslaught came not just as a military escalation, but almost certainly in response to the latest White House rhetoric, as just a day earlier, President Trump publicly dismissed Putin's peace overtures as BS, and where he expressed a more supportive posture towards Ukraine. For Ukraine, the message from Moscow wasn't just about missiles and drones, it was about retribution in an environment where the Kremlin and Putin himself are known to throw such fits of rage like these aerial raids when confronted with anything along the lines of significant military embarrassments or losses, or falling out of favor within the wider geopolitical community. I could have more simply put it as Putin throwing a tantrum. Then headed across to news. In Rome today, Zelensky engaged in several high-level meetings at the Ukrainian Recovery Conference, a high-stakes push to draw private investors and strike business deals to help cover the staggering $500 billion needed to rebuild Ukraine after the war. The conference culminated in pledges exceeding 10 billion euros to support Ukraine's reconstruction. Notably, the European Commission introduced the European Flagship Fund, aiming to mobilize substantial private investments for rebuilding efforts, and Italian PM Meloni and German Chancellor Merz drew parallels to their own nation's post-World War recoveries, emphasizing the potential for Ukraine's resurgence. As for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, he highlighted Ukraine's advancements in defense technologies and underscored the strategic importance of investing in the nation's recovery, and where he also engaged with US Special Envoy Keith Kellogg to discuss military aid, air defense systems, and the implementation of stricter sanctions on the Russian Federation. Zelensky also met with the Pope, the new Pope Leo XIV, at the Papal's summer residence in Castel Gandolfo. Both leaders proposed the Vatican as a neutral venue for future peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Then, and with an absolutely splitting headache, I'll have to call it a video today, though I think I can muster a random 5-second funny. Perfect timing on this one because it doesn't really relate to the channel. But here we go. As it turns out, North Korea's entire PC Steam gamer community is just one lonely gamer, according to Steam's data, and given the significantly locked down nature of the Hermit Kingdom's internet services, it doesn't take much of a guess to figure out who that North Korean online gamer might be. The Supreme Leader, he looks like he can play the part quite well for a gamer, grinding out achievements while the rest of the country grinds rice. So quick note, if you ever get a Steam friend request from Pyongyang, don't be shy, it could be some gaming history in the making. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!